Hi guys, good morning. We're back again. Yesterday was our first contact, and I hope you enjoyed our session. Today we are even delving even deeper. We are going to be looking at some of some topics that are going to alter your mind and put you in the right direction for your career. Right. So today I've been given 3 points to talk about. First is what can fashion designing do to me? Right. What do I need to become an exceptional fashion designer? What can stop me from becoming a fashion designer? I like these topics because they're not technical. They are all around setting your mind up for what you're supposed to become subsequently. And a lot of these things are practical. So I'm not going to start telling you things I learned from books or by listening to other people. I'm going to be giving you like real life experiences. So first off, what can fashion designing do to me? First off, one thing I like so much about creatives is that they do not age. They are always relatable. Me, for example, I'm already in my 30s, but I can walk into an environment and I would definitely vibe with whoever it is. I socialize. I have friends across different groups, men in their 40s, men in their 60s, and then the young guys who are Gen Zs as well. And I relate with everybody very well. It is as a result of how my job is. It puts you in a place where you have to relate with everybody. And of course, when you create, you stay young because you are operating in your God essence. It is like your God given assignment. Everybody is supposed to create. When you create, you sort of just last longer. I don't know the dynamics behind that, but it is a fact. One other thing again that I enjoy very much is that you would enjoy very much is creating economic impact via jobs. Because as you grow in your business, you're going to have to employ a lot of people. And of course, it is your goal to impact your community positively by employing a ton of people. That is why it is important that we all build businesses that are beyond us, businesses that are big enough to sort of make a lot of impact. And then another thing is first you beat survivor. That's if you're starting from scratch. You're going to build wealth and you're going to make impact ultimately. The business is going to expose you. You're going to meet a lot of people. I've been opportune to meet people who I wouldn't have met, if I took maybe the 9 to 5 route. I've met with presidents of organizations, and we were in rooms and we were relating like, because the person needed my services, obviously. So it was not I'm seeking this person's attention sort of relationship. It was them trying to reach out to me and get the best out of me. They needed my services, obviously. So the dynamics actually make sense. So it will expose you. And then entrepreneurship is just the best form of personal development. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to apply yourself. You find your mistakes and your weaknesses facing you every day. You find if you're somebody who is not disciplined, you find that whatever mistakes you do would come back to hit you right in your face. And so you find that because you need to succeed rather, you start to develop yourself and behave appropriately, take on behaviors that build your character. So that's what it does basically. And then for some people, one of the rewards is you get this celebrity status. Because you're relating with a lot of people, you ultimately become popular. And if you're doing very cool stuff, people want to identify with you. So in time, you become very popular. You could attain celebrity status, which could ultimately monetize, or you just enjoy it as it is, right? So next thing we're talking about is what do I need to become an exceptional designer? And this is one of the ones I genuinely thought deeply about because I started to question myself. It was if I was an exceptional designer, and of course, in my right, I am. And so, if I was going to speak about this thing from being an exceptional designer from like a global context, of course, it will boil down to your skill set, your relationships, and the ability to just deploy yourself. But in a Nigerian context, it requires a lot much more, because you're not operating in an environment that is structured yet. There are a lot of gaps, just like we discussed yesterday, from infrastructure to manufacturing and logistics and all of that. So it means that you have to be exceptional, you have to be a bit different from somebody who is in the US, for example. Because somebody in the US, for example, wouldn't need to build out through the whole value chain, They don't need to control their production, they don't need to um all they need to do basically is design and they market their products. Somebody else, because the environment is structured, They do not worry about distribution and the rest of these things that we have to worry about. So to be exceptional in our context, in the Nigerian context, first you have to realize that you are not just you are as much of an entrepreneur as a business person, as a creative rather. Most people separate creativity from business, but when you're operating in our environment, you have to sort of merge the two. As a creative, you have to master the business of your craft as well. So you must build systems. You must actually know that you're building a business, and then not just a creative practice, except you want to do it as a hobby. And then, unfortunately, you also have to create and control every aspect of your business. And this is not just a fashion industry thing, it happens all across. We have seen guys who were billionaires or poster billionaires like the Todolas, the Dangotes. There were guys who started with like front end businesses, just trading, and then integrated vertically across their value chain. So it means that you as a fashion designer has to also think about it. Okay, today I am buying fabric. Tomorrow it should be that I make my fabric. The next day should be that I buy the company that produces that fabric. Another time it should be that I am also controlling the retail side. But what we do in our space is basically just make the clothes and then that's just about it. And we leave every other thing to vibes. But if you're going to create a real economic value for yourself and your country, as the case may be, you would have to think about the whole value chain. You have to put all of that in context, right? And then another thing is integrity is currency. In our environment, we are a low trust environment. So you will find that referrals in this environment are a strategy. You have to intentionally do carry on business in a way that people will talk about you to their friends and peers. Because one thing about referrals is when I'm referring a person, I want to look good. So I will refer somebody who will make me look good. Because the person I'm referring them to, especially if they're somebody I respect, I wouldn't want any disappointments. So it means that your reputation in this environment becomes your most valuable business asset. No matter how you market, no matter how you do business, if people transact with you and live with bad experiences all the time, of course you would have some bad experiences, but it shouldn't be that you are constantly compromising your integrity. It should be that you're operating from a place of integrity. You should be trustworthy and competent as well. And then another thing is you should set very big and audacious goals. Because when you're in a place like Nigeria, you are tempted to just settle. Because I mean, there are a lot of things that you do not have in place. You're tempted to be mediocre, because there are a lot of things that are not in place, you know. But you should apply yourself and set goals and that are audacious, and you should not think just in terms of your current environment. You should think global because whatever thing you are creating is going to be consumed by you know who. And mind you, we have several continents on this earth, and Nigeria is just a country in a continent of over 54 countries. So it means that whatever you're creating should be value for the world, and you should make sure you're operating at that standard and not just for your current environment. So set very big and audacious goals, very important. Recognize your strengths and weaknesses so that you can hire people who complement your weaknesses. You cannot be everything. By the time you get to your 30s, you're already going to be stuck in your ways. You would know yourself to an extent, and you know that certain things are strengths that were in it, and you always play by them. Your weaknesses will always show up. One thing you're supposed to do is to hire people who will manage your strengths. If you're, for example, somebody who is organized, you need somebody who is a bit creative so that sometimes, because people who are organized are sometimes rigid. The person who is creative, on the other hand, is a bit scattered. So the dynamics has to balance. You have to be, if I'm a creative, for example, I need to hire a manager or somebody in my business who is more organized so that there will be balance. If I am the one who is organized, then I need somebody who is a bit creative, So you just balance that out. Weaknesses, strengths. When you see you don't have a strength in a certain thing, you hire somebody who has strength in that area. Beware of default complaining and outsourcing responsibility. I had to add this in here because it is a common thing that I've noticed. It has been a trend for generations now. Ever since I was a kid, I noticed that Nigerians, as people, love to complain. We outsource responsibility, we just complain, we blame the government. And then when you look And the effect of that over time is that you start to settle. You start to feel like, okay, moreover, the problems that are here are things I cannot do anything about. And then you just settle. So one of the ways to just inflict self-inflicted helplessness basically is, outsourcing responsibility and complaining all the time. Your job as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a fashion designer is to look out for opportunities. So those things that people are complaining about become business opportunities. When you operate from a place of responsibility, you quickly take a leadership position because the market is just growing. And so if you see the market as a growing market, as against one that is failed already, you would understand that this is a long-term game you're playing and you position accordingly. Do not be afraid to think differently. You should be willing to question conventional wisdom and to just find your own truth. Because, everybody has their opinion out there, especially in the age of social media. It's important that you are able to filter information to get the truth out of it. One that suits where you are, one that fits your context, and then you apply accordingly. You should see yourself as building an industry. Of course, we are a young industry that's just coming up. So you have to understand that whatever it is you are doing, some of the things that are lacking are things that will be there in future. So you as a person existing in a timeline, what is your responsibility for the next generation? Because whatever you build now is something that the next generation is going to build on. And this is important. It is not just to make money and disappear. It is that you want to leave a legacy. You want to build a legacy so that people who exist way after you are going to look back and say, because of this person, we had this, right? And then another thing you should do is you should be customer centric. You have to understand your customer. You treat your customer like your child. You treat them like family. It is very key because those are the people who will bring value to you and ultimately change your life. Then don't let your lifestyle rise as quickly as visibility. The reason is when you're in the fashion business, you're going to be out there, you're going to be in spaces, you're going to be popular, most likely, in a lot of cases, right? So, one mistake that people do is they mistake popularity for wealth. Just because you're popular or people know you now, you're visible, does not mean you have the coins, right? And or whatever coins you make, you have to translate them back to assets, so that you're not somebody who is just visible and then does not have like strong value back at the back of behind them. So you should make sure that as you rise, you should not focus too much on being visible. You should also focus on making sure that you have a solid business, one that has strong assets, investments, and is growing and expanding. And that will just be about it for these things you can do to apply yourself as a fashion designer. What I'm going to do is I would forward some materials that you read. I'm going to recommend some books that have been essential to my own growth. First is Richest Man in Babylon, which is it just tells you about it expands and just shows you the best. It is the best financial advice out there. It's age old, it's long, it's an old book, but the wisdom there it still applies every time. It's a book I read twice every year. It has helped me really have this mindset of how to piece things together and grow long term. The image revisited by Michael E. Berger. Okay, Geber. Yeah, hope I get that name right. Teaches about systems. It's a very practical book. Contagious Why Things Catch On by Jonah Berger. Very essential for marketing. The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. Expand your mind and allow you act fast because you don't want to take too long to do certain things. Things that should take 10 years sometimes can take 5, but we get too patient. How to Win and Keep Customers for Life. Making It Big by Femi Otodola. It's a book that understands the Nigerian context, how to play in this space. A lot of people say he's Nepo, but I think the book still has strong lessons for the everyday entrepreneur. Credit Alert by Ayo Akinola talks about how Nigerians behave and how you can just position your business for the current environment. And then 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Touches more on psychology, but it just allows you understand. It gives you perspective on how to just make your life easy. Nothing has to be too difficult. And then you can check out these videos on YouTube. Principles for Success by Ray Dalio. an excellent investor in the US, and he has this video that is really, it just touches to certain points. It gives you like strong principles that you can apply and get results immediately. Suits and Sneakers by Vusi Tembewayo. And then there's Building a Business from Scratch. It's a session that somebody did at the platform in Lagos. The CEO of Renoyer, he really, touched on topics and issues that actually apply to our environment. So I highly recommend that particular video. And so, what can stop you from becoming a fashion designer? Nothing except God or yourself. So this is my cue to you to go do it, dream big, and go for it. Thank you for being with me. See you again soon.